Hi guys, and welcome back to Couch Critics.
Hi guys! Today we will be reviewing the movie Mean Girls, the musical Mean Girls,
Yes.
that was recently reshot. So first one was in 2004 and this one is 2024, 20 years later.
Mhm.
They remade it.
So get in, losers. We're gonna review
A movie.
Mean Girls. Just kidding. You guys aren't true losers. It's a reference from the movie. So, do you want to talk about what the movie's about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this 2024 version of Mean Girls is actually the same exact script from the original one. Even some sentences were repeated and all,
Yeah.
except that this one was a musical, so there was songs involved. And by the way, the songs that were in that movie are the same from the Broadway musical Mean Girls. So basically, after 2004, they made a Broadway for that movie
Okay.
and the songs were exactly the same. So I think it was a good mix between Broadway and movies because the script and like a lot of things were the same from the movie. And yeah, it's basically about a girl who's been homeschooled her whole life, who moves back to America with her mother, and she goes to high school. And over there, she starts basically learning social skills because she's been
Mhm.
homeschooled in Africa before.
Yeah.
She didn't have like high school friends or any high school experience. So going to high school, she meets a lot of new friends, and some of those friends were the OG Mean Girls. And yeah, because she's pretty, they accept to let her hang out with them. And then she had other friends who didn't like those mean girls and who asked her to use this friendship she had with Regina George and Karen
Mhm.
and Gretchen to just prank them and turn them into unpopular girls. And
Mhm.
that's what she does. And yeah.
Um, how do you feel about this version of Mean Girls being a musical?
I like the fact that it was a musical, to be honest, because I feel like the original Mean Girls was so iconic. It's so hard to recreate it as is.
Mhm.
So the fact that it was a musical makes a lot of iconic scenes translated in a different way. So you don't really compare it to the way it was delivered, because in the original one, it was delivered with a speech, but in this one, it was delivered with jokes. And what I'm thinking about mainly is the entrance of Regina
Mhm.
George, you know?
Yeah.
I can't forget the scene from the 2004 movie where she just, enters and people are
Mhm.
carrying her and she's like Queen Bee and very iconic. And in this one, it was completely different. She was introduced with the song, and I still had chills when I heard
Mhm.
Renee sing her first song because it was so good. What about you?
Um,
Did you like it?
I did like the fact that it was a musical because I felt like both movies are so similar.
Mm-hmm.
Like the script is basically the same, the jokes are the same, the characters. Uh, they didn't change much about the characters. Like, not a lot of risks were taken, which is fine because you're trying to do a remake of an excellent movie. You don't want to take too many risks and ruin it, but I feel like the musical part is what sets them apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel to me the music definitely worked.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. Also, in the original one in 2004, Katie had voiceovers. Like we used to hear her thoughts,
Hmm.
like when she thinks. And in this one, there was songs we didn't have the
Hmm.
voiceovers, so I think that was a nice trade.
Yeah. Also, I feel like the whole concept of the movie is very absurd. I mean, everything about it is exaggerated, which comes to encapsulate what being in high school feels like. Because I don't know about you, but like when I was in high school, I felt like anything that happened was the end of the world, or
Yes.
I just every emotion was amplified, and that's what the movie tried to, like, the first one showed, and what the second one is actually showing too. And I feel like the music part of it is adding another layer to that, to the amplification of the teenage experience. And yeah, it's almost like a parody of what it feels like to be in high school.
Totally. I totally
Yeah.
agree with that.
And
Yes.
I'm thinking about like this specific scene when um the I mean, Chris Brinley's character, the guy in the movie,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Aaron.
the guy in the movie.
Yeah, like
His name is Aaron. Okay.
yeah, in the movie.
Okay. When Katie like saw him for the first time, and suddenly like she was like making all of these scenarios, and she was like singing and everything, that was like very a very teenage like behavior. So yeah, like honestly, I feel like both movies are equally as excellent. This one that just came out is more accurate to what we've been through
Mhm.
as teenagers, or what our experiences were like, just because it was so Gen Z coded. But yeah, like even the first one was great, even if I couldn't relate to it that much. But like, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it was filmed in 2004. We weren't even like we were
yeah,
barely in school then.
true. We were in kindergarten.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about like how it was Gen Z coded, I loved Karen's songs because every time
Mhm.
Karen had a song, it was like very TikTok, like
Yeah.
involved. Like we saw the TikToks, we saw timelines, and like all of those short videos, and I really like that because I think it's really hard to introduce social media in movies, just
Mhm.
like in terms of formats. You
Yeah,
know, social
without
media is
doing
portrayed.
too much. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And but it really translated well how things happen on social media. Like when something good happens, how everybody keeps talking about it,
Mhm.
and when something bad happens, how it's very exaggerated and it feels like the end of the world, as you said. So I really like that. Speaking of Karen's character, I was a bit disappointed how they made her feel like Karen is the dumb girl, and that's, you know, that's part of the script.
Mhm.
But I feel like Amanda Seyfried portrayal of Karen was more accurate because she seemed like the girl who's always head in the cloud. In this one, Karen just seemed like dumb. Like she seemed like she had nothing going on in her head. And I think
Mm,
that's the difference that I didn't really understand. I know it's probably not the actor's choice. I think it was more like suggested to her. But on the upside, I loved Karen's songs. Like when Karen
mhm.
was singing
Yeah.
and when she was, you know, on social media and all of that, she
Mhm.
really, it felt like she was in her element.
Mhm.
And I really like that. So,
Speaking of Karen, I loved her Halloween song.
yeah,
Yeah, that was like probably my favorite in the movie. I don't know why we think that Amanda's character, like the way that she portrayed Karen, is kind of like dumper. Because to me, it's a race thing. Because we're as a society, or like from what we used to see in movies in the early 2000s, a lot of those beautiful blonde girls were portrayed as dumb. So whenever we saw one, I'm like, just think of movies like Legally Blonde, Mean Girls, like almost every 2000 early 2000s rom-com slash high school movie, like has this specific girl who happens to be very beautiful blonde and who cannot understand anything. So now we have like a character from a different race, and it almost feels like too theatrical.
yeah,
Like you could see the acting, which is not something that you're supposed to see. It needs to be natural. But I feel like the actress did her best. It's just that in our head we're still like a little bit brainwashed, not brainwashed, but heavily influenced by all the movies that we consumed in the past.
yeah.
At least that's the way that I see it. But
No, I
yeah.
agree with you. I think that there has been a very, I don't want to say negative, but a very stereotypical image of,
Mhm.
you know, gorgeous girl being just not smart. And it's still the case. I mean, Karen in this movie is also gorgeous, but it's just like a different kind of cast. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I agree with you.
And speaking of stereotypes, I don't know where I saw this, but I saw that Renee Rapp, the
Hmm.
actress who played Regina George,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Was body shamed because
Yes.
people didn't think that she was skinny enough to be Queen Bee in the movie.
I mean, I think for starters, I don't think we should comment on anybody's bodies, whether
Yeah.
she was skinny enough or not skinny enough. It doesn't matter. But I think she did such a good job. And I actually find it quite believable that she could be Queen Bee. She's gorgeous and she look like she fits the cast, and I
She
don't see
does.
why like a different body image should change how she could act. I don't know. I just find it so disappointing that people still comment on those things. It's just, it's not our place.
Mhm.
And she delivered her role really well. Like fitting into Rachel McAdams' shoes is such a challenge.
Yeah.
And I was worried for her because I was like, it's not everybody can take up this role. And I really had low expectations, but she did such a good job and
Mhm.
I really liked her performance.
I totally agree with you, and I will even go as far to say that I found her scarier than Rachel
Yeah.
McAdams, and more believable in that role. To
Hmm.
me, she was the only one who seemed natural at it,
Yeah.
who seemed like she wasn't even trying, and she's extremely charismatic and very beautiful. And there is like to me, there is a small silver lining about it. It's not a good one, but like you can be mean and like extremely beautiful in any shape or color or like race. It's not about what you look like. uh, Beauty is not about that, and like your personality isn't equally not about that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think she's gorgeous. I think she is very scary too, and
Yeah.
she is extremely charismatic. But speaking of scary, I have a question for you. um Obviously, like when I watched the 2000 Mean Girls, I was I didn't like Rachel McAdams' character, Regina George. She to me she was obviously the villain, and I didn't like her, and I was rooting for Cady. But when I watched the 2024 Mean Girls, I wasn't rooting for Cady. To me, George is the victim, and Katie's the villain because all Regina did during the entire movie was try to help Katie fit in, and Katie tried to like date her ex,
Hmm.
make her friends.
Stop liking her. Yeah.
Exactly, all she did was being grateful, and I don't think Regina is that mean girl that people portray her to be. Maybe since we're speaking about high school, maybe it's just a rumor that was amplified, and Regina found herself stuck in that character, and she's not really a bad person.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like that's what I like about this movie, even
Mm.
though it's a like teenage girls movie and everything. I feel like it has such a deep meaning to it because I feel like Katie basically her flaws is not knowing what the norms are. Like, there's a girl code. You don't date your friend's ex. I feel like
Yeah.
that's that's the also the same as the bro code in like How I Met Your Mother. Never mind. But I feel like Katie is a like she's still learning how to be in society because she didn't have that experience before. Whereas for Regina, I feel like yes, she is a kind person, but at the same time, she's a teenager, and she does have her insecure moments. I feel like the moments that turned Regina into a bad person, because even Katie at first thought she was nice, but the moment where Katie started antagonizing Regina was when she kissed the guy that Katie had a crush on, even though when she told her that she was gonna you know, um, help her out to start dating
But
him.
it was her ex.
But yeah, but they're teenagers, so I don't know, it's different. But I agree with you, yes.
Mm.
But also, like, Regina is, I think she was trying to be a nice person, but she had moments of weaknesses that turned her into the complete opposite, where she did extreme stuff, like as actually, I don't think she did
She
anything
didn't do
extreme.
anything extreme.
That's
I think
right.
Katie did so many extreme things,
It's
like
true.
dating Regina's ex. Because if you apply this scenario in real life, like you met someone, you're trying to help them make friends.
Yeah.
They're new, they don't know anyone. You're trying to help them look better and everything. And then they tell you that they want your help to date your ex. It's like it doesn't make any sense. And I feel like since Katie's a teenager, she's not a villain either, because like you can't blame her. Like there isn't like a moment in the movie where she thinks that she is wrong, because she's a teenager, and to her everything is about her, because this is what teenagers do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's about, when you're a teenager, everything's about you, revolves around you, and you're always in the wrong. I mean, that's what I imagine most teenagers are like. That's
Yeah.
how I was.
Yeah.
And yeah, but yeah, I feel like to uh, I mean, the characters present themselves a certain way, but the movie forces you somehow to like put them in these boxes, and they don't fit into these boxes. Regina, to me, and especially, I don't know if like if it's a change of mentality that we have right now, if like the whole Gen Z situation doesn't, like the Gen Z values that don't align with what's with the
Previous
ideas that the
generations.
movie is proposing. But yeah, I just cannot see Regina George as a villain.
Actually, I appreciate Regina George because she's very straightforward and she's very
Mhm.
honest. And when she wants something, she gets it. There were some blurry lines. For example, when she was dating Aaron, she was cheating on him with somebody else. So maybe
Yeah.
those are like the small, like, flaws she had. Like, she wanted to give Katie heels just to make fun of her. She did have her like small bad sides, but so did Katie, and so does every teenager, I
Mhm.
suppose. And yeah.
Also, throughout the entire movie, all we heard from like the other student is that they heard that Regina George did something. No one like saw for sure that she did anything wrong.
Yeah.
So I may sound like a Regina George apologist, but I don't feel like it's fair to like portray her as the villain of this movie.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Regina George is an iconic character, and I'll always
She
like. I
is.
think like out of Regina and Katie, I would prefer Regina's character because she
Me
does.
too.
She has more of a statement. You know, she has
Mhm.
more of a purpose. She does what she want. Like, she does what she does for reasons. It
Yeah.
seems, and yeah. Speaking of Regina, what did you think about her songs, her moments? Like, what did you? I don't know. What did you think about her songs?
I liked her the song that she sang during her first appearance,
Mm-hmm.
and also when she was going to, she went back to high school to like leave her burn book. Um, but yeah, her songs were very dramatic,
Yes.
and it's because she's very dramatic.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, they weren't my favorites actually. So
No,
yeah.
my favorites were Regina's and Karen's,
Okay.
but I'll tell you why. My favorite Regina songs were my favorite because they gave me a horror vibe. Like,
Yeah.
when she found out that the Caltine bars made her fat and she started screaming and like the whole screen became black. There was no sounds at that moment,
Hmm.
but when Regina was shown, it felt like we were in a horror movie, whereas
Yeah.
when Katie was shown, it felt like we were in a kids movie.
Yeah.
And I love the difference between those two because it really switches.
Hmm.
And I love the edge Regina had. Like, she was a really edgy person. We didn't see that with Rachel McAdams. Rachel
Hmm.
McAdams was more of a girly girl with heels and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is bad, but with this portrayal, Regina seems more like a straightforward, mean
Hmm.
person. Honest, but not mean, not rude. I don't know how to describe her. Just like a very straightforward, determined person.
Hmm.
And we see that with her fashion and everything. So, yeah.
It's true. But I feel like as a society, I know we're talking about Mean Girls, but and I'm making the whole thing very dramatic, but I feel like as a society, we should try to think differently of the way that we see women, because like now you just described Regina as this very determined, very self-composed, very confident woman, and I feel like people are kind of scared
Yeah.
of that, whereas when you meet someone like Katie, they can stab you on the back, but like if she's nice and cute and doesn't dress up, like she's inoffensive. And
Yes.
so I feel like we still have some preconceived ideas that we need to like work
Yeah.
on as as an audience.
I totally agree with that. And I feel like Katie, because she seemed being the keyword, more harmless,
Hmm.
she ended up being the villain. In my
Yeah.
opinion, Katie is a villain because she not only was she mean to Regina herself, but she was mean to her actual like friends or
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Totally. How did you feel about the other performances by the other actors?
I loved all of them. I think they were all really good. Gretchen Wiener, like,
Mhm.
is her last name
Yeah,
Wiener?
I
Okay.
think so. Yeah.
Gretchen had Gretchen had a beautiful performance,
Mhm.
very uptight, put together, and
Yeah.
always worried, but I loved
Yeah.
it. I also loved Janice's performance. I think
Mhm.
Janice is an iconic character, and I love that in this movie they gave her more of a they gave her more of a style. In the
Mhm.
original Mean Girls, her hair was always messy. I don't
Yeah.
know how she was dressing. She was more of an emo girl, but in this one, she's like the Zoomer version of an edgy
Mhm.
girl, and I love that about her. And I think that she had a very similar style with Regina,
Yeah.
surprisingly. And yeah, loved her hair, loved her personality, loved her songs, loved how she performed. So yeah, I think all of the characters are good.
Mhm.
Tina Fey, amazing. 20 years
Tina
later,
Fey, yeah,
still
still looks
doing.
the same.
Yes, Hollywood.
I really liked seeing Ashley Park too, you know, the actress from Emily in Paris
Yes,
as a
yes.
teacher.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Chris Brinley is Brinny, not Brinley. Chris Brinny is acting like Chris Brinny again.
Yeah.
To me, he plays the same character as his character in This Summer I Turned Pretty, and he's slowly like becoming an like
The
known for these kind of roles of
yeah,
like
the
the
OG high school love interest.
clueless OG high school love interest who doesn't seem to know what's going on and who always thinks that the world revolves around him. But I really like him as an actor. I feel like though, since I think he went to theater school, he could be the kind of actor that we could compare to Timothée Chalamet in the sense of if he's given the opportunity to do something extremely theatrical, we're gonna see more of his skills. But yeah, right now he's just like playing these very calm
Yeah.
characters, and yeah.
But I think that's Aaron's character. Like, I don't, in the Mean Girl, yes,
Mhm.
Aaron has a personality and everything, but he's also this kind of accessory to
Yeah,
Regina. He's not
yeah,
the
of
kind of
course.
person who has
Hmm.
his own opinions or stuff like that. At least not
Yeah.
in the beginning, maybe more towards the end. But yeah.
If you could play any of these characters, which ones would you like to play
Oh my God.
in another remake?
I would love to be Janice. Also,
Okay,
in the original one, Janice is a Lebanese girl. So,
really.
yeah, her nationality, because by the end of the movie, when Kevin dances with her, he asks her, "Where are you from?" And she says, Lebanese. And apparently, the whole premise of the first Mean Girls movie was around the fact that Janice was Lebanese, because Janice once told Regina that she was Lebanese, but Regina thought that she meant lesbian, and she started bullying her because of that.
Oh,
That is the whole premise of the first Mean Girls.
okay.
But yeah.
They did not hint at that right now.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't use
Hmm.
that same plot in this one. But yeah, I would love to play Janice. I think
Hmm.
she's so fun. She doesn't care. She's artistic.
Yeah.
She's mean. She's nice. I don't know. I would love to play Janice. What about you?
I would love to play Karen or Gretchen because I feel like the costumes would be great. That like
Yeah.
I would always look cute and also like it's they're just like so s- so unique and so original and I just feel like it would be so much fun to play them. Yeah.
Yeah. I do see you as Gretchen.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
I
would
see
love to
that.
play Gretchen and just be stressed out and screaming at people,
Honestly, this is
all while trying to look cute.
yeah. This is the best part about acting.
Yeah. What do you think makes a great remake in general?
Hmm. I think what makes a great remake is being able to identify the iconic scenes and trying to make them iconic in a different way. So, what I mean is not recreating them as is, because I feel like when a movie is so good, like the original version of a movie is so good, people will have these high expectations for
Hmm.
these key moments of the
Yeah.
movie. And when you take these key moments and you completely shift them and turn them into something else, you kind of stop giving the audience a chance to compare it to the original
Yeah.
movie and you give them something new to admire.
Hmm.
So I think that's it. It's just not finding a way to not ruin the iconic moments
Hmm.
and remake them in a different way, but keeping everything else
Hmm.
original, like keeping everything else honest and truthful to the original version. Yeah. What about you? What makes a
I
good
totally
remake?
agree with you. I definitely think that if you're trying to make a remake, you should stay faithful to the original version of the movie that you're trying to remake because there aren't enough opportunities to take risks because the risks were already taken.
Hmm.
This is why the original movie worked. And if you're trying to do something too different, you're making a new movie. In this case, it's not a remake. And if you're going with something that was very successful, like if you're trying to make a remake of, I don't know, like Gossip Girl or Pretty Little Liars, why do they, which like they people try to make remakes
And they
of these
flopped.
shows and they flopped. Why did they flop? Because like the result that we got was way too different from like the original formula that worked. And yeah, as you said, like as an audience, if we just want to see something that reminds us of the original show slash movie that we watched, that we loved.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to see something different. Of course, you don't copy and paste. You do have to change a few things and add your personal touch. Like for Mean Girls, it was the music. But yeah, don't drift away from, like
The
the
original
original.
version. Yeah, I totally agree with that. All right. I want to talk about the houses and the architecture
Mhm.
because I noticed that Regina's house in this movie was completely different from the original one, but Katie's house was the same as the original one in terms of stairs and everything. And I really loved that small twist because Regina is always it shows how much Regina is always a trendsetter. She always follows the
Mhm.
trends. Everything she does is like is trendy basically,
Yeah.
and Cady, when it comes to her, she's more of a like very timeless character. Like
Mhm.
she's this girl who just moved to the suburbs and it's a very typical suburban house and it hasn't changed in the past 20 years. So yeah, that's something I really liked about that. Do you have any comments about the set designs, the costumes? What did you
Um,
think about it?
I feel like it was quite different from the original movie, and all like it totally makes sense because like if we want to talk about fashion in the early 2000s isn't the same as right now. And I love how they try to make something that we could relate to.
Yeah.
And yeah, Regina George is definitely the trendiest out of like all
Mm-hmm.
the other characters. And Gretchen and Karen seem like they're trying to copy her, whereas Cady, she's very basic, exactly like Lindsay Lohan was in the first movie. When it comes to the set design, I loved Regina's house, especially her room. It was very colorful, very beautiful. But yeah, when it comes to the school, it was kind of similar to the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think about Katie's performance? This Katie versus 2004 Katie.
I feel like these characters are more believable because, especially Katie, because she looks like a high schooler, first of all, whereas Lindsay Lohan looked a little bit old.
Yeah.
Not, I'm not saying she's old, but like she looked older than a high schooler. That's what I'm trying to say. So, what about you? Which Katie did you like better?
I like this Katie better just because, as you said, she seems more fitting to her character, more more appropriate. But Lindsay Lohan, I feel like they both had very different performances, and both of them were good in their own different ways. But I feel like with Lindsay Lohan, I was able to see more the viciousness with Lindsay
Mm-hmm.
Lohan. Like
Yeah.
Lindsay Lohan did seem more insecure, whereas this Katie felt, what was her name? It was, she had a very complicated name, but this Katie, she seemed more like clueless,
Yeah.
more than just insecure, and I like that about her. She fits more the teenage
Yeah.
kid stereotype, and she was growing, and even when she messed up, like you could feel that she didn't know she was messing
Mm-hmm.
up. Or with Katie, like with Lindsay Lohan, it felt as if she knew she was messing up and she didn't care. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the small line between both of them, and this is why I like this version of Katie better. So yeah.
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls. Oh, I also want to talk about the burn book scene because
Oh yeah.
I did find some okay. I did find something very interesting about that scene. In the 2004 version of the movie, Rachel McAdams, Regina George, makes 1,000 of copies of the burned book and she just
Mhm.
spreads them around the school. Whereas in this one, she just leaves the book as it is and leaves it in the hallway because she
Yeah.
knows that with social media, it's going to be
Oh,
taken pictures of and everybody will be able to have access to it. And I think it was such, it's a small detail, but it's so clever.
yeah.
Like, yeah, no, she didn't need to print 1,000 copies because even if it was just one paper, it was going to travel so much faster
Yeah.
through social media and cause so much chaos. And I thought that this was genius.
Mhm. No, I totally agree. Yeah. Mean Girls.
Mean Girls. So that's our opinion on Mean Girls. Let us know what you think about it in the comments if you watched it and which version did you like
Did you
better.
like?
And yeah,
Please like and subscribe and let us know if you want us to watch or review any other movies.
yes.
And yeah, we'll see you guys next week for another review.
See you next week, losers. No, I'm kidding. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.